Happy Monday, ladies, and thank you for joining us today for the AIME Women's Mortgage Network Growth Series. This series is here for you to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. On today's show, we have two awesome WMN members that are going to share with us how they built their personal brand by being authentic and vulnerable. And they are going to give you 6 action items for you to use. It is my honor to introduce Ashley Miller. She is the Business Development Manager of GTG Financial with branches in California, Texas, and Colorado. She has worked in the mortgage industry for 11 years, holding various roles from admin to secondary to origination and now in management. And we also have with us Michelle Dugan. She is the owner of MS Lending, a boutique mortgage brokerage in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and opening soon in Ocean Springs. She has worked in the real estate industry for 19 years, with 14 of those years being focused on mortgage origination. Together, Ashley and Michelle are the co-hosts of their podcast, Blondes Have More Funds. Their podcast focuses on empowering women and shining a light on the female journey. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so excited to jump into this. Okay, Ashley, let's start. Tell us, what was that moment when you realized you needed to build a personal brand? And once you realized it, where did you start?
Well, first, Laura, thank you for having us today. Michelle and I were super excited to be here. We pretty much talked about it all week, how we were super excited to come on to this together. And so thank you for hosting us. So for my personal brand, so in all the years I spent in the various roles I held in the mortgage industry, one of my most recent roles with my previous company before I joined GTG Financial was origination. And at that time, there's so many people in the mortgage business, in my market, probably in everyone's market, who are doing the same thing as me. You know, we're all out there trying to originate loans. And so what sets me apart in my business? What can I do that is different than the person who is working next door to me or the guy down the street? And it was when I realized that when I started to just highlight portions of my life and who I was and started to get to know people on more of a personal level is where the business came in. So a light bulb kind of went off that I needed to brand myself and not necessarily the business that I worked for or the job that I was doing, but me as an individualized person. So I just really started, I started with social media, and it was the best way for me to start highlighting portions of my life, you know, my children, my dog, my hobbies on the weekends, the things I like to get out and go do. And in turn, with me blending more of a personalized touch and letting people know who I am, Ashley Miller, the mortgage originator, I started to get this brand of, you know, she's all about these things, and then she also does mortgage over here as her job. Joining GTG as the business development manager, that in itself tells you what I need to do is to brand the company, find new ways to bring in business, and being the face of that was very important to still continue on branding myself too. So people often, I think, sometimes think, you know, Ashley Miller is her own entity, but really, you know, I also work for GTG, but that's great if you know, like to do business with me, because then in turn, you know, helps the whole entire company. So my biggest thing was just getting as personal as I could and just being as genuine as I could, and really creating affinity with the people that I was trying to do business with.
Love that. So a couple of questions, okay? One question is, do you feel that you really should dive into one social media platform, or do you feel it's all across? You know, do Instagram, do Facebook, do LinkedIn. Like, do you do it all the way across, or do you really focus in on one?
You know, so I think that depends. So they say that you should have all these different platforms that you can post on. But for me, it doesn't come comfortable for me to use certain platforms like YouTube or, I have a LinkedIn profile, but I would say my biggest presence is both Facebook and Instagram. And so I concentrate heavily on those two platforms just because I know how to use them. I already have a brand built up on them, and I interact with people the most on those two platforms. So for me, I can concentrate 100% of my efforts on those two things versus trying to spread myself thin across multiple different platforms. And that's just what works for me.
Yep. And that makes total sense because you're going direct to consumer. So that would make complete sense, to be comfortable there. Awesome. Love it. Okay, Michelle, let's hear about what was that moment when you decided, hey, this is great. Obviously, you're a broker owner, so you have your own company. So, of course, you're marketing that side. But what was that moment when you were like, similar to what Ashley just said, maybe by having my personal brand, I can then incorporate my business because that's part of your personal brand, right?
Right, I agree. So when I got back into the mortgage business, I had taken a little break for a while. And when I got back in, what I quickly realized was that I didn't necessarily want to just focus on my company's brand, because what if something happened with it? Or what if I moved to a different company one day? So I was really focused on me and what I could bring to the table as an originator, who I was as an originator. And I had all these connections on social media, but I didn't want to be out there simply talking about business all the time, because when you do that, people just turn it off and they start to ignore it. So I hired a social media coach actually initially and learned how to properly post on social media to build my audience, to build my target audience, which I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But so I started working on that personally. And then as I opened my own company, then I started incorporating my company's brand and what did I want our image to be to, our local community and to the public, in addition to still me as an originator as well, because I'm still, even though this is my company, we have, several originators, and I still want to be able to distinguish myself from just the company as well. And then after I met Ashley and, we met and we formed our podcast, and we knew that it was important for us to brand the podcast as well, but not just as, hey guys, we have a podcast. We had to define who we were and let people know who we were, just as individuals, so that they would want to tune in and listen, because otherwise there's a million podcasts out there. We have to be able to separate, or to set ourselves apart from everything else in the industry. So
absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. So now is the time when we're going to actually hear some tips and insightful guidance for all the ladies out there. So let's start. Ashley, give your first 2 tips and kind of some guidance for all of us.
Sure. So I think when I think about the branding, like Michelle just said, I always go to the podcast, because that was something that her and I completely started from scratch, that her and I didn't have any experience in at all. And so we really did have to kind of learn as we were going. And so I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give anyone who is thinking of starting something, whether it's to enhance your business or supplement your business, or just something that you want to take on that can also increase your branding, but maybe you are just kind of paralyzed by this fear of, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't even know if anyone's even going to be receptive to this. And I think my biggest tip would be, if you're having these thoughts of starting something, just start it before you are ready. Michelle and I did that with the podcast. We had no idea what we were doing. We both walked into a Best Buy to buy equipment, and we had no idea what we were getting, but we did it. And our first episode was a Facebook Live. It wasn't even a podcast because we couldn't figure out how to set it up. But the point is, I think when you allow yourself to create this perpetualized thought process of, well, I can't do this because I don't know how to do that, or it won't be perfect, or I'm waiting for the very right moment to do it. You just have to forget all that and just start. Because I think when we talk about branding, authenticity is such a huge piece in that too. And for us, we're so real with, we don't know what we're doing, but we're learning, and we want you guys to come along this journey with us. And there might be hiccups along the way, but we started something that we were passionate about starting. And, here we are weeks into it, and we've honed our craft in real time throughout this process. We've never once had bad feedback on any of it. Everyone has been so supportive of it. So I think just start something. Whatever you're thinking about doing today, put the wheels in motion to get that started, and the rest will fall into place, but just don't be afraid to start. And to play on that, my next tip, and kind of what I touched on earlier too, is highlight who you are in business. Don't be all about mortgage or all about real estate or whatever it is that is your income producing activity. Don't be 100% all about that. Let people see who you are as a person. Michelle kind of said this earlier. If you get on and you're just talking about mortgages, someone who's not interested in a refinance or buying a house or in the industry is really not interested in hearing what it is that you have to say at that point in time. And I don't mean that to be harsh or mean or rude or anything, but people just don't necessarily have that same passion that we do about mortgages, and that's completely fine. So highlight who you are as a person. Show the parts of your life that make you who you are. You know, who is Michelle Dugan and who is Ashley Miller? What are we about other than our jobs? And I think when you start to do that, you really start to create affinity with people. And that's kind of like where the magic starts to happen. And then that motivates you to continue going on whatever it was that you started that you were afraid to start. So I think that that's just a very like magical, you know, potion right there.
Absolutely. Well, you said a couple of great things there. Okay. First thing about just start, right? There will never, ever be that perfect ideal, all the planets aligning and everything being perfect before you start something. But do it. Don't be afraid. Be brave. Be bold. And just start. Because like you guys said, it's not, you're going to go through this evolution. You're going to go through this change together. And that's part of the journey. That's part of it. So kudos to that. And then the second thing is, there's nothing sexy about mortgages. Nothing. All right. There's never going to be people saying, I really want that mortgage. I mean, it's just not exciting. It's just not sexy. But connecting and having that human connection and really seeing this bond with someone and being authentic, all of a sudden, people understand you're real and people build a trust. And they want to be part of what you're providing to them. So that is wonderful advice. Thank you, Ashley. All right, Michelle, what's the first two?
Well, I'm going to parlay a little bit off of what Ashley said, too, with the authenticity, but take it in a little bit of a different direction. So yes, you need to show people that you have a life outside of mortgages because nobody wants a mortgage. They want the house, right? But part of being authentic is showing up as your true self too. So I think it's really easy for us to want to put on this like perfect image out there for social media and that like, you know, I've got it all together and I'm running this great business and I have these kids and they're just perfect kids. But in reality, we know that that's not the case. So if we try to show up as perfect all the time, I think that it makes us less approachable to people on the outside. So when they see that we're real and that when we're truly being authentic, I think that's when we really are able to make those connections and bonds with people that truly, that's where our customer, you know, that's where our customers come from once they realize that we're a person that they can relate to. So truly be authentic, show up as who you actually are as a person. If you don't like, you know, if you don't like coffee or sports, don't go out there acting like you're some big, you know, coffee drinking sports fan, because you're not going to be able to really authentically live that role because you don't relate with it. You don't, you know, you're not, that's not who you are. So I think that that's something that's really, you know, don't be afraid to put who you truly are out there, because maybe you're not going to attract everybody, but you're going to attract the people that you're supposed to attract to you. Which that kind of parlays into my second thing, which is defining your target audience. So part of building your brand is knowing who you're trying to attract. I know for me personally, I really love to work with move up home buyers. So what does that look like? That's a family that, you know, maybe they have 2 or 3 kids and they're in a small house and they're getting ready to buy their second or maybe third house. Those are the people that I really like to attract on social media. How do I do that? By being authentic, talking about my life, relating as a mother. So one of my, a post that I put on social media once that really got a lot more attention than I thought it would was about my son going to the bathroom and using the shower curtain to wipe his butt. And there was poop on the shower curtain. And so I put it on social media and I have people that ask me about it, that we laugh about it all the time, but it was real. Like that's the real life stuff that happens. But if I had been trying to like, you know, put this little perfect image of who I was out there, I would have never talked about it. And I've actually gotten several loans as a result of that one post. I know earlier today, Ashley, I want to talk about you for a second, but she put a picture on social media and it was this cute little workout shirt and it said like work for your booze or something. I can't remember exactly how it's phrased, but it was super cute. And then she was talking about how somebody reached out to her about a refinance because of the shirt that she had on in the picture. So I think that when we're more real, people can truly relate to us. And that's when we create those relationships that go beyond the screen and into your messages and into business.
Absolutely. And as you're speaking, I'm literally thinking of some of the brokers that we all know where, obviously, about Vetted VA, where, the mission of helping veterans. And there's so many people that are part of that group. And then I can think of stories where people maybe had a struggle getting a loan themselves that actually came into the mortgage industry because they went through that struggle, and they ultimately became brokers, and they said, I want to go and help others that went through that same struggle as me, maybe helping them get their credit in line, or being able to, save up enough to be able to get that home. So you're right. As you're speaking, I'm even thinking to myself that I can literally almost think of different brokers that are utilizing that. But you're right. You can't necessarily be everything to everyone, right? Then you're not serving anyone in that situation. So I love that. You're absolutely correct. Take, how you can relate to that market that you're trying to connect with, and you will. I love that. Great advice, Michelle. Love it. All right, Ashley, what's your next one?
So Michelle and I are really good at parlaying off one another. So sorry if it all sounds a little redundant.
Why you have a podcast.
What to do, I know. So to me, social media has been king for branding my business. And we've talked about, how to be authentic on it and how to, target your audience. And, Michelle mentioned I threw up a workout tank that I just bought. It says earn your booze on it. And I got a referral from it. And, I'm someone who's not afraid to take, stupid videos of myself, and I'll post them. So I like to make people laugh and giggle and stuff. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, so social media has been really big for me in branding my business. But there are 100 different ways to brand a business, right? And there's you can get into these different Facebook groups and you can talk to different professionals, and they've all got a way of doing something that has brought in their business. So for me, social media has been, I can contribute close to 100%, I think, of my business via social media.
Wow.
So what I want to say is, whatever it is that you want to focus your energy on, continue to do that, and know that while someone may be doing something different, you are also not doing it wrong, but you have to stay consistent in whatever it is that you're doing. So if I decide that I'm going to hit Facebook and Instagram hard, and I'm going to have this, fun, jovial persona on social media, that's what I'm going to continue on. And that's what's worked for me. And that's, where I also too feel comfortable. That's a comfortable space for me. And so then it comes off authentic and genuine, because I'm not trying to overdo and compensate for something that just really is not me, who I am at my core. So find, where you feel comfortable, whether it's doing YouTube videos, whether it's a podcast, whether it's, social media lives. And I don't go live all the time on social media because I'm just simply not comfortable really, going live with the camera in my face. And so mine's, a lot of photos and stuff like that. And I stay consistent with it, and that's what works for me. So find, where your happy point is, find where you feel comfortable, and just stay consistent in it, and it will work. It'll work. You will build that brand over time. And as you get more comfortable doing that, you're going to get more confident doing it, and then you're just going to shine.
You are correct. And that really is the key to everything, is consistency, right? And, it's hard for us in the world that we live in. We want instant gratification, right? In everything. We want Amazon Prime. We want it to be delivered within 24 hours on our doorstep, right? But you can't, it's funny. I did some research about podcasts, and it turns out that there's 1 million podcasts globally, okay? But half of them only have more than 4 episodes. So that in itself shows that the problem is that people start things, but they give up. So you're correct, Ashley. The consistency of whatever you choose, right? Wherever you're comfortable, wherever you are going to shine, just stick with it, because that's the key to the whole thing. And don't get overwhelmed with, oh, I didn't get this many likes, or I didn't get comments. People are watching. It's there. Matter of fact, I saw a woman in the Women's Mortgage Network posted something over the weekend or Friday night, where she said that she posted something, and then nothing happened. And then months later, one of the people that saw her post said, oh, I'm moving to Texas. And I remember this lady that posted, she's licensed in Texas. She's a mortgage broker, and she came back to her. So even if somebody isn't reacting right there, don't stop. Don't give up, because there are people watching, and there are people that are going to come back to you. So I love that advice. Consistency is key. All right, Michelle, what's the final tip?
So the last thing I would say is to find your people and find your mentors in this business, and don't be afraid to reach out. So obviously we have an amazing group here that has been built that's just for women. It's a safe place for us to be able to post and talk about whatever we want, but don't be afraid to take relationships beyond just this group too. So if you see somebody that's doing something that you think that this is great, that you want to know more about it, reach out to them. I think that anybody in here, for the most part, is going to help you with whatever you're trying to do. So really lean into your groups, your circles, your mentors, and use them. I know people talk to Ashley and I about stuff all the time. We're always willing to talk to them and help them with whatever comes up or answer any questions. And we are that way because people did that for us too. So we didn't pave the path. We found the people that were doing what we wanted to do, and we've learned from them. We continue to learn from them. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just don't be afraid to speak up and to reach out and just ask for help and really lean into those relationships, because we have an amazing network around us. And the more that we utilize it, the more we grow, and it helps all of us.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good. I love that we ended at that point, because that is vital information. Never be afraid to reach out to anyone. If you see, like you said, if you see someone doing something that you're like, that's interesting, or I want to learn more, I want to know how they did it, or I want to get some insight, never be afraid to reach out. I think our industry, especially during COVID and everything else, there's so much change that has happened that I think people are very willing to collaborate and very open to sharing information. So I think that's great advice as a whole. So we should always be confident in ourselves that we are all strong, wonderful women, smart women, that we should always have that confidence to reach out, because we have something great to share with them just as much as they have something great to share with us. So great advice, Michelle. You guys are awesome. This was so informative and such valuable information. And of course, how do they listen to the podcast?
So, sorry, I was muted, so I was waiting. There's a little background noise. My dog keeps pawing at the door. So we are on Spotify. We're on iTunes, Apple. I am the worst. Spotify, Apple iTunes, and Google Play. You can listen to the podcast. We also have a website. Mortgageblondes.com. Again, see, we're not perfect. We record our episodes, and then we figure it out after the fact. But we are on all 3 major channels, and we also have an Instagram and a Facebook page. And we would love if you guys could follow along in our journey. We're getting ready to pick up season 2, and we've got a lot to talk about. So we would love for everyone to follow along with us.
Awesome. Well, we will certainly do that. Thank you so much for being on with us. And of course, our challenge this week to the group is to take some of these tips. Honestly, you should take all of the tips. Pretty much every single thing that Ashley and Michelle recommended is spot on, and definitely is something we all should be doing. So thank you so much, ladies. All right, so next Monday, it's Labor Day. So everyone, please take some time, relax. I know everybody's been working very, very, very hard. So take Labor Day and please spend some special time for yourself and with your families. And then we will pick it up on September 14th. We are actually going to have a special guest, Garland Vance. He is the author of Getting Unbusy. And he actually is going to share with us his research of how to accomplish everything in life without burning out. So it's actually something that he's going to share with us, how we can have those fulfilled lives without having burnout. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful and productive day, and happy